don't see any Chromecasts or cast-enabled TVs linked to your account.
Hello, everybody. If y'all heard that little note, don't even pay no attention to that. We are back for the last session of the Black Women Photographers Summit. This weekend has been so full, so amazing, and I'm so grateful. I'm your host, Chrissy. Thank y'all for rocking with me this whole weekend. It's been such a joy. I've learned so much, and I'm really grateful to be here. And this time it's a little different. We got a lot of people in the room. So as we dive into this panel, just about our creative journeys and how we balance maybe having 9 to 5, maybe being in school, I want to let these photographers here on this panel introduce themselves a little bit, and then let's get into it. So whoever would like to go first, could you please let us know your name, the type of photography you do, and a little bit about yourself. Oh, and maybe where you're from.
Well, I'm off mute, so I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Natalie Scott. I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia. Since I'm currently in school, I'm kind of on the path to defining what my genre is, so I'm not sure just yet. I've been trying out different things. I am a mom of 3, a wife, and like you said, a photographer, upcoming photographer. So
I'll go next. My name is Ivana Jarman. I'm from Chicago. I've been doing photography for about 21 years, but professionally since 2020. What type of photography I do is kind of a mix of portrait and editorial. I'm finding this out. I have to ask other photographers because I don't know what it looks like. And I work in a library currently.
Okay, my name is Ruha Maya. I've been a photographer for about, I want to say 10 years now, but although professionally starting 2022. I'm based in Brooklyn, New York, and I guess my work is more portrait, editorial, but outside of this, I'm also a video editor full time.
My name's Benisha. I just turned 30 in March, and I do fine art, portraiture, and entertainment photography. I do freelance photo editing for the company BFA. You guys may see them on social media. And I'm also a full-time print manager at a fine art print lab in Louisiana. I'm also from Louisiana.
Hey guys, my name is Cavazier. I'm currently based in South Florida. I'm 23 years old. I'm currently going to Arizona State University. And I specialize in kind of a mix of what you all said. I've mostly been focused on photo and video, but I do a lot of portraits. And I also work in a cafe.
Beautiful. Thank y'all so much for being here today. I'm excited to get into all of this. And I just want to say for the audience, since there's a lot of us here, it's going to be so imperative that you use that hashtag that we have, BWP Summit, to ask some of these questions. And we have a Q&A box here. So please be sure to drop it in the chat so we can get this conversation going. I want to start off with how you each found your own niche. And also, I want this to be a fluid conversation. We could talk to each other. Y'all can ask each other questions, especially if we have some similarities in the room. So whoever would like to go first about their niche, I'll also pull up some Instagrams too, so everybody can see your work.
I'll go first. Okay. So
Thanks, Ivana.
I'm still figuring it out. I don't know. I just feel like I'm still figuring it out. Like I said earlier, I feel like most of the time I'm looking at others' work to kind of figure it out. I love editorial. I love portrait. I like getting in people's faces. Um, and that's sorry, seeing my own images. Um, but yeah, I feel like for me, it's something that I'm always discovering, something that I like. Um, And yeah, I'm still figuring it out, but as you can see, it's definitely portrait related here.
Yeah. And then Benisha, how about you?
Sorry. Yeah, so how I found my niches, I'm gonna make it kind of like short because it's kind of long, but I did undergrad, I studied photography. I started out in a commercial based university, and then I just knew that like the area that I grew up in, it couldn't provide me with the skill set that I wanted to learn from, which was like fashion photography and etc. And I transferred to another school. They were more fine art based, and that's when I started getting more into like concepts and like history and of photography and documentary based photography. Um, and when I first started photography, I did a lot of portraits and I did like work for modeling agencies like test shoots and stuff. Um, and I got into entertainment in a similar way where I was um just photographing like events. I like growing up, I'd always go to like parties and like bring my camera, like barbecue, like backyard stuff, and it just progressed into a natural thing of going to bigger things and etc. Um, so yeah, right now I'm working to put myself out there to do more like publication work and editorial, like combine like my fine art style and put it out there in the commercial editorial space. So that's been interesting. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I can go next, or
Yeah. I know I
Yeah.
saw that you unmuted.
So my background is actually in journalism. That's what I studied in school, then worked for local news. So I think it's interesting that like my focus tends to be portraiture. Um, I think now I'm mostly focused on, I guess I really do like conceptual work or telling a story with the photos I take. And I've realized that recently, I guess by the end of last year. So mostly niche in portraiture and really trying to hone in on like how I plan on telling stories with that. And I'm going to be doing that with a project I'm working on now. So, but yeah, it's like I tend to shoot with a lot of models. And that's been helpful in terms of like just figuring out how I want to tell stories. Or if I do so like that, in that case, that was like a more conceptual shoot, but it ended up being really literal because the stylist like found somebody with hands and like we put it on his head and ended up working out, but exploring that more.
So I have to agree that I'm also still like trying to define what my niche is. I use my kids as like my subjects and my models all the time. So you'll see a lot of my pictures with my kids. So portraiture and maybe a little fine art here and there, but mostly portraiture. But after hearing, I think it was Mickey on day one, about concert photography, I think I definitely want to step into that a little bit more as well. So
Yeah, Mickey was the concert photographer. Her work is so stunning.
So what are you guys doing for those that are still trying to like find their style? I guess the question is, what do you like doing and what do you want to do more of?
Well, before you answer that, I just want to give Cavassier an opportunity to go.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I want to answer your question too, because that's a great question. But I'm gonna answer that first and say I'm getting to event photography right now. I think if you've been doing this for a while, like your niche is bound to change. Just if you're like me, at least like my focus, I tend to like a lot of different things. And I started doing it in high school when I played sports. So a lot of my subjects was just like my teammates around me. And then I would just bring my camera to school, take pictures. of people that I knew. And now I've transitioned from like doing senior grad stuff and all of that to working out of the studio I'm currently in right now to understand how to control lighting better and just get a better sense of telling a story rather than, just taking stuff for money or trying to take a pretty picture. So that's really been my focus, getting better at storytelling with photos and videos. But I'm really looking into doing events. I have like a lot of different parties and things coming up, and we'll probably set up like make it more simple, just do like a traveling photo booth is my idea for it. I'm trying to learn how to carry my style over to every image I make because I do like to add some creativity in there, but still, translate the feeling. So hopefully with events, I'll be able to do that. How about you guys? What are you feeling at the moment?
I guess I would say I want to hone in on editorial. I've always been someone who's been really scared of reaching out to getting a team. And I realized that as I grow as a photographer, there are things and like details and things I want in my photos and what my photos to look like. And that sometimes require, MUAs, stylists, and reaching out and building a community. And for me, that's really scary, but I want to do documentary photography. I want to do editorial. Like there's so many stuff like I want to do, but it's like, how do I do these things? How do I just simply like reach out to that person and ask like, hey, do you want to collaborate? So that's what I'm trying to attempt to do is like I do a lot of mood boarding. If you could see my phone is full of mood boards. I tell everyone like I can send you a mood board. I can tell you exactly what I'm thinking with a mood board. Um, and yeah, so I feel like I'm trying to figure out my niche that way. Simply mood boarding and reaching out to people and collaborating with them.
Wait, so question for you actually. Are you trying to do, because editorial is a broad term. And when I think about it, I tend to think about like people that shoot for like a newspaper that can be considered not, well, like maybe not like your everyday story, but sometimes covers for a magazine and it could be the New Yorker or something, even like choose anything and it could be like editorial, but then there's also fashion editorial. And I think sometimes we can get so hung up on the word editorial when like sometimes you just really mean you want to shoot fashion, but I just think it's like language and how we use it.
Yes. It's funny because I never thought that I was into fashion photography. And then I started realizing as I started working with MUAs and hairstylists that maybe I was getting into fashion photography. And it's something that's still very new to me. So I guess fashion photography, I guess I would say. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
That does, yeah.
Look at that. We getting clear on this chat. I love that. Yes. Does anybody else want to answer the question that Benicia posted or hosted rather?
Real quick, I just want to say everyone's work is phenomenal.
Truly, I'm loving it over here. Well, then in that case, okay, how about for the students on the panel? How has it been for you guys navigating your creative passion while balancing like homework and the demands of being in school?
Is it okay if I speak again? For me, it's rough. I'm in a master's program, and if anyone knows about a master's program, it is hardcore reading all the time. Every day it feels like there's no end to it. And so for me to do anything outside of it, I had someone tell me once, to make space for yourself, just to not do anything, to do whatever you want in that space. that time that time frame that you have for yourself. Make time for it. And at the beginning of the year, it was really, really rough for me because I didn't know how to make it all work. Plus, I was working full time, and I'm like, how do I do all this all at once? And then remember that photography exists. And so I've been making space, and because I just started another full-time job, so I'm relearning how to create that space for myself again. But that's what I'm doing. I'm finding like a little chunk of time for myself. Even if it's sometimes carrying my camera with me, that's a little time to myself.
I agree. I actually work from home, so like whenever I have like a 15-minute break, I try to work on an assignment or a discussion post, or whenever, we take the family outside to the park, I got my camera with me, taking it everywhere. So I try to like squeeze it in no matter how I can. So my camera's always on my hip, and I'm always finding like a little 5-minute, 10-minute period that I can like read an article or do a discussion, get something done. So yeah.
I had I guess I've just always been like driven with photography. Like it was no matter if I was in school or if like I had very like low amounts of time to spare. I just love photography so much that like I would just find the time to do it. On top of like class schedules, homework schedules, like sacrificing sleep, doing undergrad, like a lot of my portfolio, like it wasn't done in school. A lot of it was like work outside of school. So I was applying what I learned mm, in the real world. And that's like, what they want you to do in school. Um, and balancing full-time work is interesting. Uh, like Dana Scruggs, is that how you pronounce her last name? She mentioned Saturday about like how she would do like test shoots like a couple hours before she would go into work at 9. I'm like starting to think about doing that because I want to update my portrait portfolio and like show like my newer style now with that. Um and also thinking about like a master's program, but I'm not interested as far as like fine art programs. Somebody else in the group was doing the MPS fashion photography SVA program. So I've been considering that and trying to think about like, well, how am I going to balance that with everything else? So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
From everybody else here who isn't a student, are you already adopting that lifestyle? Is that how you manage? If you have a 9 to 5, are you doing photography from 5 to 9?
Okay, yes and no. Um, I think, have I shot this year and we're like 6 months in? No. I did like one shoot in I think February, and then it's been like some things like that I don't post just to practice things. I think I'm kind of currently surrendering or releasing this idea that like I have to shoot all the time, especially when I'm planning for projects. And when you're like, especially if it's like a bigger project you're trying to get done, I realize I'm doing a lot of it myself. So it's like from the casting to the scheduling to the finding a location, and then also just finding a stylist I can work with. Well, it's just because everybody needs to get something from it as well. And so the last couple months, once I realized, okay, like this is what I want to do, it's mostly been planning, and I plan on starting to shoot in July. But I think what's interesting with a 9 to 5 is I work for a streaming company currently, and I work with advertisements, and I work a 4 to 12 shift actually.
Ooh,
Um, so you think that would provide me with time to shoot in the morning, and sometimes it does, but it really is an energy level thing because like while I work full time, it is contract. and it's by the hour, and it really is the demand of like the job and what's needed. So like sometimes I'm working till like 2 or 3 in the morning if like we need to get edits out. And that doesn't leave much room for me to have the energy the next day. So it really is season, it depends on the season for me currently, as well as like my capacity to do the things. And I now feel like I have more capacity to like get out and shoot the things. And I set that as a goal for myself. But I'm also now realizing like it's less of going out with my camera now. I'm more focused on like, okay, what shot do I need to get this project across? And like being very specific about what that looks like. And then taking that. So it's like very more, I'm just being a little more particular and specific with my time and like when those things get done and how those shots get done, like how I get what I need with the time that I have, especially if like I'm doing a job that requires so much, even though it should be so little, but it's just the time requirement.
Yeah, do you mind if we talk a little bit more about your work for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've never heard of the 4 to 12 at a streaming service, and you mean 4 p.m. to midnight, right?
Yes.
What is that? Like, what do you do?
So we love TV over here. Well, I don't like we all watch TV. We watch lots of it. So there's some shows out this summer, and I edit the like some of these social ads where I'm part of a team that does that, but it's kind of like this wheel of like just getting things out. But I don't know if any of you have ever edited a video. 30-second videos you can get done in maybe like an hour or two, 1 to 2 minutes. It takes a while because it's also like we're quality checking. We're making sure that when this goes to the public, there are no issues. So it's very operations oriented too. So one of the reasons why I still have the capacity to do some sort of creative work on my own is because I don't have to handle the creative aspect of the things I'm editing. Whereas like in previous roles I did, and it takes a lot to use whatever creative energy you have to do something creative for someone else, then go home later and try and do it for yourself. So the 4 to 12 shift honestly is killer, especially like when it goes into the like next morning. But like because of the kind of editing it is, I feel like I have more capacity to like still focus on my things. I know that's like very vague altogether. If anyone want to ask me like where I actually work after this, by all means.
Right, that's okay. You don't gotta drop no names. I was just curious about yeah, like your actual work and what you do. So thank you for sharing that. I'd love to ask whoever else wants to answer about if they're balancing that like 9 to 5, 5 to 9 kind of lifestyle, how they're managing that.
I can answer to that. Also, sorry, it just started storming, so now my internet might go in and out. But I work 9 to 5, and then my freelance photo editing work, it's that 5 to 9 or like 6 to midnight type of situation, whether it be like on site and remote, or remote. And how I'm balancing that, it's when I first started photo editing, I didn't have a full-time job. And so I would just like rest like for the whole day until I had to go to the photo editing gig, or like if I was photographing like entertainment events, it's the same process, just like making sure I have the rest, energized, like I've stretched, because you gotta be running around and stuff. Somebody had said one time, like entertainment or event photography is literally a sport. So yeah, doing that, making sure I'm real well rested. The 9 to 5 added on. I realized I couldn't take like all like night jobs when I got the 9 to 5. So it was I had to learn how to say no and realize like what I want to have in my portfolio. I don't have to take all the jobs, and yeah, just be considerate with my time. And then sometimes like with remote work, I do have to if with remote work do have to work a 9 to 5 and then the remote job later. So sometimes I just like take a nap when I get home. And fortunately, a lot of my work is on the East Coast when I'm working remote. So it's say like the jobs at like 10 East Coast time, like I'm not going to get the job till like 2 a.m. my time. So I just, take that time for rest.
Yeah, that's smart and definitely necessary too. Kavazia, do you want to answer?
I'm sorry, but what was the exact question again? It was about,
The question was, how do you balance the 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 life?
yeah, I would say it's kind of similar to what she said earlier about just the different seasons and understanding like what you have the capacity for. Currently, I recently just finished up a mentorship with it was through IKEA with Annie Leibovitz, and juggling that while having classes was definitely a lot on me. So I wrapped that up around February, and I really just took a few months to rest because I felt like I was getting close to the burnout, and not pushing myself to shoot as much, but really like trying to understand more of what I actually want to do and not just like shooting anything. Really understanding more of the business side too has been a big thing for me that I wanted to get better at, because I feel like the creative side sometimes it's just so easy for me, but the business side and all of like the nuances with relationships and community is some of the things that I'm more curious about. So I've been learning that and navigating. Time management is a big part. I feel myself getting ready to shoot again, especially like I said, I'm getting into events. I have a birthday party coming up soon that I'm really looking forward to, because for the past few months, I mostly did like just self-portrait and just simple pictures, like where I'm out. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, it's definitely like ebb and flows, and just depending on what season I'm in, going with that and not overworking myself too much, which it can be easy to do, you know.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about this internship? What was that like for you? How did you get it? And what's it like managing your time when you're in the middle of an internship and maybe also balancing other work?
Yeah, so thankfully it wasn't exactly an internship. It was more of like we had a mentor, and it was remote because it was with the IKEA, the global IKEA sector, which is in Sweden. So a lot of it was like they scheduled certain sessions for us to be mentored. It was like 5 or 6 young photographers around the world, and the artist in residence was Annie Leibovitz. So she was able to be in on the sessions, and like we would all just meet up. And they eventually, I think it was like December, we met up in person. They brought us to Sweden, and it was honestly my first experience like that. It was a lot of good, a lot of good, and some of like unexpected. Wasn't all, hunky dory, but I think managing my time in that was kind of hard because, I had a lot of personal life issues going on when I was trying to really just keep it all together. But I think the creative aspect of the work that I ended up doing was very connected to the assignment they gave us. So that was like my outlet to like take a breath and still like navigate wrapping that up as best as I could, while still, doing all the things. Hopefully that answered it well. It ended in February with our photos up in like a little exhibit pair. So it's cool to see that like come to wraps and just make it back to getting back to like the other things that I want to do. But I definitely learned some of the business side, and even just like working with brands, like all of that comes with that, because that was really new to me. So yeah.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations. That's so beautiful. It sounds amazing and a really like informative moment. Um,
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were also going through some life things. And nobody has to like go into detail about anything they're going through, but this just has me thinking about like even if we weren't balancing a 9 to 5 or any other type of school, managing projects, like there's still real life happening every day for all of us. Do y'all have any tips on like how you guys have been managing your time or how you manage your mental load when you might be going through some things and balancing some things in order to still be creative or just like prioritize creativity in your lives?
I'll go first real quick and just say during that, like it was really connected to like family issues. So even with the assignment they gave us, which was to show life at home through our perspective, I kind of had the perfect like gateway to like one, show my community, but also just reflect on life and some of the things that are, you know, not easy to talk about, and use the camera as a lens to, I mean, it really has been a way for me to express myself since the start when I was playing sports. So just better my relationship and use it in a different way. But as far as managing time, like that's something that I have tried to get, I've tried all the things, like all the productivity things, and tried to get better with over time. I tested a few different, like, you know, writing, therapy, all the different aspects that are recommended. And I think to a certain extent they have helped. But for me, it's definitely like seasons of knowing when I need to chill and like do more of the back end stuff, or when I'm feeling like very emotional, I need to, you know, figure that out, go talk to a friend, go write, go do something. And just know, like trying to get better at knowing myself, it has helped me a lot personally. How about you guys?
I can add to that. I'd say that one thing I do tell people is like rest is an important part of my creative practice. I can't be creative without rest, and that can come in many forms. Especially if like it's a mentally draining month or season for whatever is happening. And so like I prioritize that first, in whatever way that looks like. But I also think as far as time management, I think creatives in general can do better with it. But of course it looks different in each season. But something I do now is I try to at least ask myself, like, what's one thing or three things I can do today to feel successful? And honestly, sometimes that looks like doing laundry. Like if my laundry's done and I have clean sheets, I can like then work on this thing I want to do. But I think it's just making it bite-sized, digestible. And then it's never the big things that are getting you to what you want to do. It's always just the smaller actions you take every day. The things nobody will see when you're like, people are talking about you in the room, if that makes sense. So I really just try to keep it digestible. And like, in terms of like this week, I guess my list is pretty long since it's like the long weekend is coming up. But like I know what I need to do, and it's just like just hit these three things on Monday, and then like you can take a break Tuesday. I don't think every day needs to be productive. I think it's okay to give yourself like some time to rest. It's yeah, I keep saying the same thing, regurgitating, but like in different ways. But yeah.
No, that's real. I definitely became a to-do list girl. And I live by this calendar now. It's color-coded and everything. But that also has me thinking about Natalie. You mentioned you're a mom. How is it like for you? Like that's just a whole nother layer of balancing and managing. You probably have some really good task management situations going on in your brain.
I don't know about that. I try. I use my Google Calendar as much as possible. So during orientation for school, they actually had like a session where we created our own calendar, made time blocks. This is time to work. This is time for school. This is time for family. So I try to go by that as much as possible. And then whenever like, you know, the block is up, I try to turn my brain off so that I'm not burning myself out or, you know, working outside of work hours, doing school outside of school hours, but still making sure everything gets done. And then, you know, weekends are for family. Like I said, I keep my camera on me at all times. And then to Benicia, to piggyback off your question from earlier, I shoot everything. I try to shoot as much as I can to kind of find my niche. And once I see something that I like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to get back to that later. So Wednesday, I'll look at the weather, the sun is out. Okay, I'll have time to do this and take those photos. So I try to be as productive as I can because I know that my time is limited. But also knowing that burning myself out will not help at all.
I've been told I'm a very busy person. I'm always doing something. I'm always like, it's always something for me, whether it's working, school, editing, like whatever. I'm always doing something. So for me, which has been the most amazing thing is the Black Women's Photography Group. Like those are my breaks. You know, those are like when I force myself, and I hate to use the word force because I have to force myself to go out there to be creative and going to like the meetups, you know, talking to other photographers and just like for me that's like, oh goodness, this is a nice break. It's a nice, like I get to be around people that are just like me, who
Yeah.
probably work 9 to 5s, who are also super busy. So when I go out, when I do photo walks, you know, when I go out with not only the Black Women Photography Group, there's other, you know, photography groups out there where I'm just like, this is nice. You know, I'm just gonna go out and shoot and be with my people, and it's a nice break for me to really let go. Because yeah, I am someone who goes to if you look at my calendar right now, it's a mess. So, you know, whenever I have a photo walk in a couple of days. So I'm like,
Oh,
there we
yeah.
have it. I have my time.
I love that like these BWP resources are also your break time. Like low-key, you're finding opportunities, but to you, that's resting. And I love that. But it has me thinking about like how we are finding opportunities for ourselves and considering we're all at different stages in our career, and some of us are in school and some of us are balancing jobs. Can a few of y'all talk about where else you guys are finding opportunities or making opportunities for yourselves?
I think an interesting one for me has been through my work experience, honestly. I think especially, I don't know if anybody in any other big cities can like relate to this, which I feel like everybody can maybe. Because I tend to bounce around a lot at different companies because it's contract work and you tend to be there for an extended amount of time. And so I recently ended up shooting some Black History Month ERG event at Yahoo because I used to work there. And so I think I'm becoming more aware of like, I think it's easy to feel like you don't have access to anything. And like lately it's been showing up through like certain people. So that's been just an interesting one for me. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting to receive opportunities because I worked in these places. And that's how some of them have been coming up for me.
Beautiful.
I would say I go to a lot of networking events. I also reach out to a lot of photographers. I sign up for a lot of residencies and whatnot. And I've gotten like surprisingly a lot of like my main events, like the word of mouth of me have I'm losing my train of thought, you guys. Forgive me. But through all those things, just talking to people, having a conversation, has brought me a lot of business, surprisingly so. And usually it's just I just want a conversation because I want to try and be better as a photographer. And yeah, it's been fantastic. It's always a surprise when I get a job for something photography related.
Come on now, Ivana. I'm gonna need that imposter syndrome to shut up because it should not be a surprise. You put in the work, you going to all these events, like you put in the work to get the jobs. That's why they coming.
True. You're right. You're right.
Okay, but since we're talking about jobs a little bit, I'm looking at some of y'all websites. Maybe I'll start off with you, Cavassier. Could you let us know how you built yours and any advice you have when we're talking about transitioning from using socials as our predominant portfolio and then to using a website?
Yeah, of course. So I'd say it's been like maybe a year and a half. It was like right before the mentorship. I had an older Instagram and it just I felt burnout. I got really tired of social media and I felt like too much online. So then I took a step back and I was like, okay, do I even really need this? Then once I realized I kind of didn't, or I think it was actually in the Slack group where I don't know if it was a Slack group or somewhere, it was through BWP, but people were talking about just, being over, not limiting themselves to one type of marketing, which is, like social media is a great tool. It is a great tool to use, but it does have, another side to it. And I wanted to explore, like I said, the other side, the more in-person marketing, even like photo posters you may see on the side of the road. Like I wanted to kind of understand the older way because I feel like I've been on Instagram since, I was too young to be on Instagram. So I kind of, I know how to use it. It's there if I need to go back. And I made a page to still share some stuff, but I started learning like web design and testing it out over the years. Like I started off, I believe, with Squarespace. That was a few years ago. And then through BWP, I had portfolio reviews that helped me figure out, okay, what do you need to tweak about your site? And what you don't have to share everything. Like I just kind of took notes from those portfolio reviews, which were great for me, and even met other people through those portfolio reviews and just kept getting like a lot of different insights. So that helped me to get to the point where I'm at now, which even now, I could expand on my website. I was just learning more of the back end of things, like as far as like coding and even what platform I want to use, or if I just want to build my own. So I've been playing around with that, but yeah, also being tuned on to like the resources that get thrown around and like, people are really, I love this group because there's not really a lot of gatekeeping. And as far as the community aspect of things, just talking to people, there's room for play. We're not just, being like, okay, is my next client going to come through Instagram? And even recently, like I got my digital marketing certificate to really understand, okay, what like SEO and just some of the back end for when I launch like my next body of work, and I plan on like having merch. So just learning like what all that takes, that has helped me a lot because I do want to pivot from my page now and just maybe share like personal stuff, but not share like most of my work on that. I do have a newsletter that's also helped me to keep in contact with my emails and people who I've made connects with, like even from editors I may have, met, or agency I may have met through BWP, give them updates. So yeah, like I think just being open to learning, definitely networking. Like she said, networking has helped me a lot. Going out in person, just all of that has really helped me to get a better understanding and better grounding of,
Yeah, and
yeah.
whether it's this blog, right?
Yeah, that's the blog. It's on Substack, but you can pretty much subscribe and just get it through your email. I do love Substack just because I've been really in my reading era right now, y'all. So
Yeah.
it's
Substack
really
is a good platform. So make sure y'all subscribe. If anybody else here has a newsletter, can you please drop your links in the chat and we'll make sure everybody gets them so y'all can get y'all subscribers. Ruhamaya,
Yeah.
I definitely want to go to you too because I was just on your website and I see you got essays, you got a video. What went into how you are formulating your website?
So I love how you were like the old way with websites, and I feel like that ages me a little bit because I'm like, websites are the only way.
I was like, oh, not old.
Right. I was like, oh my God. So for me, it's like with video editing, I think that was honestly the ideal thing, like the way I was sharing my work when I was applying the jobs. Like, yeah, you'd have Vimeo, but my professors and advisors were always like, you need to have something like it sits on that they link to, that when you apply, recruiters can see, hiring managers can see. Especially since like I'm not on Instagram as much. It just took like I was off for a year and then I got back on 2022 because I got into a photo like mentorship program. And so I was like, all right, let me get back on. And like I ended up taking like just taking off a lot of old work and putting up new work. But for me, it feels like websites are like I even link my LinkedIn. So it's like when I apply to jobs, they see that, especially if I'm like applying to like photo editor roles or something. So it's like they can see that like, hey, I do take photos. Here's maybe how I edit, or here are like other things I'm doing, and I can provide as much or as little information as I want depending on that. I actually just recently moved to format. I can get a little bit better about SEO and all these things because like as you can see in the link, it says number 14, and it was just like as I was like numbering images. So I was like, I can go back and fix some of those things. And you mentioned essays. That's something I'm playing with because I saw another photographer do it. And I think as I'm like, most of my images focus on storytelling or trying to in some way or playing with it in ways, essays feels right. It doesn't always have a description. If it's something that's deeper, it will, but it feels right as opposed to just putting projects. Whereas like if it's like a project, I'll do that. It really is all subjective, and so it might change in like a couple months. But this site feels right about now. And I haven't put much video up there. I just put something from like a while ago. Because I also haven't created video in a while as I'm editing for other people. So that's something I plan on exploring this year as well.
Okay. And just in case anybody in the chat might not know about SEO or like what Ruhamaya had mentioned, we're talking about this right here. SEO covers a lot of things, but sometimes if you have a descriptor about like your project, you can put it in your URL, you can put it in your tags so that if somebody is just Googling the term like daddy daycare, Ruhamaya's work would pop up as an option to click, which just gives you more views on your work, and maybe the people who are looking to hire you can find you a little easier. But Nisha, I know you have a website too. I can pull it up over here if you want to talk about what went into building yours.
Um, I let's see. I recently redid it. I'm still working on that text format, but um, I so I haven't talked a lot about my fine art work, but I had someone, they were like a photo editor from like one of the platforms that people use, like a database, photographers or like stylists that a lot of companies use to find photographers for projects. And she told me that I could combine my fine art work, or I could make my fine art work into like an editorial page, because they have like similarities as far as like having concepts or showing like your distinctive style, and that's what people would be looking for editorial work, is if you're doing like fashion editorial work. So I just kind of like made it towards that, at least that page. And then doing like before and afters of like photo editing, if you're applying to certain positions or like contract jobs, they want to see before and afters. And yeah, that's kind of how I formatted it. Showing awards and like your bio and making it captivating. I do use search engine optimization, SEO, and yeah, it's changed a whole lot over. I've been doing photography for 10 years, or a little bit over 10 years. I forgot to mention that earlier, but it's definitely progressed to what it is now. So
Yeah, I love that each of you also have different things to provide, just to give the group some examples of what a website can look like. It doesn't have to be all of your work that you've ever done. And you could also be a multi-hyphenate artist. Like Benicia has photo editing and photography, but Ruhamaya had the photo essays and some selected works and some video. Like you can really make it your own. And I really appreciate that. And another thing that I thought about, because did both of y'all use Format? I don't remember who it was that uses Format, but BWP partnered with Format like a year or two ago, and where we did free webinars on like building an effective portfolio for your website. So if y'all missed that, you can go rewatch it on our YouTube, like how you can go rewatch this later on. How about anybody else? Do you guys have websites, or where are you in your career in terms of building your website? Maybe you're under construction, maybe you've been thinking about it.
Currently I do have a website on Format. I just took it off for the time being. I'm trying to promote something else. But I always find creating a website the most hardest thing in life.
Hold on, we're here to help. What's going on?
You know, because right now I'm just using one of their like templates, you
Okay.
know, easy peasy. And I had a portfolio review from someone, and you know, I did one of those things where like I was trying to include everything because like I took all these amazing photos and no one's seeing them. They see like maybe one or two on my Instagram. And he was like, well, you need to take a bunch of this stuff off. And I'm like, okay, I did that. And now I have a potential client that says, hey, do you do this other work? And I'm like, well, I do, but it's not on there. And so figuring out the website is very, very hard. It's funny because the Black Women Photography Group in Chicago, we have a little Instagram chat, and we're getting together in like I think a week or two to kind of figure out our websites because we all need to revamp it. So that's what's happening. I think it's on the 14th. We're all getting together because I'm like, there's things that need to happen on this website, and my website is fine for what it is. It's great, but I know that it could be better. So yeah, I was on Squarespace. It was great for the time being, and then everyone's using Format. So I will be checking out those videos.
Perfect. Oh, I love that, a little website workshop. That's really good. I want to get a little bit deeper into the bag. Can we talk about what's in our camera bags? I want to talk about what kind of cameras we using, what's your favorite lenses, what do we do?
I just had I just bought a new 10 to 22 millimeter lens. A lot of people for events use 24 to 70, but I like the 10 to 22, which was also gifted to me by another documentary photographer. I feel like it's better in like tighter spaces and uh like dinner parties and stuff. Um, so I have a 10 to 22, a nifty 50, and that's pretty much it. Oh no, sorry. I also shoot on film. So I have a Mamiya 645. I just got and it has an 80 millimeter. And then I got like a 165 millimeter lens, and then there's a wide angle I want to get for that. But in the meantime, for like studio portraits, if I wanted to shoot wide, I use my Canon AE1 and a 28 millimeter lens on that. And film wise, if for the film equipment, I tend to use Kodak T-Max 100 or what was it, Fuji Neopan 100. I really like the blacks and like the crispness of it, and it can look like it's still digital, like you shot it on a digital camera, but it's film. If that makes sense.
Yeah, if anybody else shoots film, I would love to know your favorite films too.
I know people will Kodak for black and white, but I'm an Ilford girly for black and white. So yeah, and I guess Kodak for color, mainly portrait. But I do also shoot film. Most of my work on my site and Instagram is film outside of like 2 photos that are digital. I have an Mamiya RZ, um, just the basic primes that come with it. I prefer to shoot wide, honestly, and then move in as I need to. But I've also been shooting some 35mm, and that's going to be like a Nikon camera, which is great for me because I can put digital Nikon lenses on it. I have a Nikon Z6, so I actually hate zooms. It's the 24-70, so I can just attach those primes for the smaller Nikon onto the Z6.
Ooh,
So
she hates Zoom. She's a
yeah.
fucking girly.
Yeah, crazy. I have a RB. When I shoot film, I shoot on a Mamiya RB67, and then when I shoot digital, I have a Z6 as well with Nikon. Um, I started shooting, I believe, on Nikon 3400. Currently, I prefer like just a prime lens, but I do also like to shoot wide. Like I tested a fisheye not too long ago, and I fell in love with it. So I'm thinking about getting that. I feel her on when she said wide is the way to go. I've been definitely keeping my eye open on that. But yeah, as far as anything else, I've just been trying to use those as much as possible before I buy anything else, because it can you can see like a lot of nice things, and you're like, okay, I gotta just chill out a little bit, work with what I got. And that's what I have to remind myself anyway, because sometimes I see some really fly equipment out here. It's a lot of different things going on in the camera industry.
Yeah, I be having to stop myself from getting new gear all the time. It's like, are you really about to use this camera or what?
Yeah.
So currently I have a Sony Alpha 5000, which is kind of old. Like I don't even have a hot shoe on mine, so I need to update that like immediately. And I have a 135mm, and then I use my kit lens as well. So between those two, currently looking at like a Sony A7R III, hopefully sometime in the future. Just because I already have the Sony lenses. But I haven't heard many people use Sony, so now I'm thinking maybe, Canon or Nikon. I don't know. You guys are making me kind of change my mind a little bit.
Well, I mean, shout out to Nikon, because BWP also had a partnership with Nikon where we were able to we had a couple grants with Nikon where some folks got money, some folks got gear. It was really, really beautiful. But I will say Sony does make some incredible cameras. And like you said, like getting another camera that already fits some of the gear that you got, priceless. A win's a win.
Yeah, and I'll add, like, if you're gonna do video, I would go Sony too. Like, if you ever like explore, like Nikon, I know they're like making some leaps with it, but like I think Sony for video is like I was stuck. But I think BWP does an amazing job at like selling Nikon for Nikon. So I was like, all right, Black women are saying yes to Nikon. Let me get Nikon.
Next, I have a Canon 60 Mark II. I use a 24-70mm, a 16-35, and a 50mm. But I'm trying to get back into film photography. But Canon F1, I think the reason I'm trying to get back into film is because I started in film, and as soon as 'cause I felt like I was a failure at film, so I jumped right into digital so quick. But now I realize as a older person that I need to be more intentional about my photography, and film teaches you that because you only have so many frames. So I am right now taking my Canon F1 around with me. I'm looking to try to explore like the Mamiya. I just had a friend last week like, hey, you should buy my camera from me. I'm like, that's I want to, trust me, I would love to, but I don't know if I'm ready for that. I'm just gonna stick with my little camera and try my best.
Mm. Well, beautiful. I want to talk about how we edit. We talked about our gear and the different types of photography that we're into, and now I want to get into a little bit of that post-production. Ruhamaya, can you actually start us off, because your color grading, I feel like it's something you might be known for. Do you have any tips, some of your favorite things to do or anything like that when it comes to your editing process?
I think what's interesting is, so me and a friend talk about editing all the time. And so for her, she's just, I don't know why it didn't come out like this. And I think we forget how much lighting influences how you edit. And even more so if like you're shooting film and it's over or underexposed. And I think you get some leeway with digital. Um, but I also think it's like a personality type that probably doesn't make any sense. But I'm like, how you edit is also a big part of who you are. And I think for me, I like very clean, minimal images. And if I'm going to add color, it's coming from the clothing or the backdrop or the things around the person. But for my film photos, actually, most of that is also done in the dark room now. And so when I'm printing those photos in the dark room and then scanning them later. And so it's actually made me want to experiment with color more, because I like how the colors come out more as opposed to scans. But also I can now sit there and know that like taking away magenta or yellow will like kind of change the tint or the feel of the photo. And so that's been nice to be able to like work through. But yeah, when I edit now, it's mostly just, if it's digital, it's probably like really heavy retouching. But if it's film, I'm just like, because you also sometimes don't get all the detail and it's not as clinical. It's just spots and blemishes or removing something from the image.
Mm. Yeah. Does anybody else want to add about how they develop their own editing style?
I think it depends on the work, the editing workflow for me. Because with the like contract photo editing work, it's usually like you're just making sure like the white balance is nice and like blemishes and like hot spots and stuff. For the full-time work for the print production management, I work with a lot of film sometimes, negatives and prints, and I have to make the images pop for the printing process. And a lot of people don't think about the printing process, and like the editing part is like essential to the printing process. So you're looking at like a lot of color profiles, making sure they match up to the printer, but also just making sure your colors are nice and your contrast and levels are good.
Yeah, can you talk about the
Yeah.
difference there? How like you do need to edit for print, and that can look different from editing for digital if you're just gonna like share it on your website or socials.
Yeah, because it's like film. Like you have to like you're like using, depending on like what type of film you use, like your printing process, the type of paper you use, like your output affects the outprint of your photograph. So like mattes have an effect, like fine art natural paper, like the cold press watercolor, um, or like luster, like the shiny material or metallic. Um, if you like grew up in the 80s, like metallic was like the luster type finish. But yeah, so that greatly affects your photographs, and you just have to, a lot of the time it's just testing, doing test prints to see like what you like, because maybe what the standard is, like you may not want that output for your photograph. You know, maybe you're trying to be, if it's like a conceptual project, maybe you want to be intentional, or you want the print to correlate to your concept, your project. So yes, yeah, printing. So I get lost in the answer. But the printing does affect your photographs in the end. I mean, you should always think about that if you're wanting prints.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so thinking about how we talked a little bit about pre, during, and then now post, I'd love if you all could maybe share a story about when you first started charging for a shoot, and how you determined how to price it versus like how you know, define or set for your worth now.
So
Ivan.
I'm laughing at Cavazia. Because yeah, when you first do those jobs, you undercharge like a lot. So anyways,
Right.
No, I'm still undercharging. Honestly, it's only when I get the work and I'm editing is when I know that I had undercharged. When my first time charging someone was about 2 years ago, and I realized that severely like undercharged myself because they tricked me, and it was supposed to be for one person, then there was two people in the photo shoot, and
Ooh, not some scams.
they scammed me, and their clothes were not ironed. So much editing. And I undercharged them. Like now, with the group, the subgroup, in the for the Chicago Black Women Photography group, I tend to reach out, and ask the group, prices, or I tend to go to the groups, like their own websites, because some of them have the pricings already there, or like I started doing contracts because of this subgroup. I started thinking about all the little like details to add up, and I'm like, for me it was because of the Black Women Photography group in Chicago that really kind of like I had people to ask about these things on how I should be charging. Um and yeah, that's I'm still working on it. It's definitely because I'm always kind of scared, like whether I'm charging too much or I'm charging too little. It's definitely something I'm working on. And I hope we all know that we're amazing photographers and that we deserve to be paid like amazing photographers.
Yes.
I'll say that working as a print production manager, it's helped me um ask questions to um ask questions to properly like coordinate like pricing for projects um and just being extra communicative and continuing to ask a client like what their needs are. So in your mind and on your like your Excel or like Google Sheet, like you can um you can price properly. What was the original question? The how to like what was our first experience of like charging?
Yeah, if you can share your first experience of charging versus how you price yourself now.
Yeah, so the my first like gig, I did not ask the right questions. I did not ask like how long is it going to be? Like, what do you need? Do you need editing? Do you need post editing? Is there lunch provided? Like, do you need a stylist? Do you need makeup? Like, I did not get thorough with the client. And so when I came upon the job, it was just like, I just undermined myself and it was like a slap in the face. So, but now with like lots of experience and of course the accountability of the full-time job, that helps me make sure I'm in the right mindset of asking the right questions and um, making sure I cover all my bases in payment.
Yes. Um, oh, Ivan, I think it was you. You mentioned the Chicago BWP subgroup, and Catherine, in the chat asked about if there's a subgroup in Houston, Texas, or Texas in general. And so I just wanted to speak to a little bit of that. We use Slack to make subgroups either by city or region. So for example, Chicago has a city subgroup for BWP. It's kind of like a chapter rather. Whereas I'm based in LA, though I'm from Chicago, so I love hearing that Chicago be pulling up like this. The one for LA is just the West Coast at large. So all you need to do is be a part of our Slack. You can go to blackwomanphotographers.com if you're a Black woman photographer and email us to ask to be a part of our directory. And from that, that's how you get into the Slack. And then you can just add whichever subgroup that applies to you. We have all different types of channels there, being your location, the type of photography you're interested in. We have things like if we just want to ask each other questions, if we want to share work and get feedback, stuff like that. So yes, please come join a subgroup that is related to you. And thank you for asking that question, Catherine. Catherine also asked if there will be access to replays. There will be if you just go to our YouTube. Once this is uploaded, it'll be on our YouTube. Please subscribe. Our whole weekend covering the entire summit will be there, so you can watch anything you may have missed. So yeah, thank you for asking. And then I am so sorry if I'm gonna mispronounce your name, but Ekemini asked, how do I get connected with the group with BWP in Chicago? And that's the same way, so please go to the website. And I'm just glad, maybe Ivana, if you want to add a little bit more about your experience being a part of one of the chapters of BWP. Because as a reminder, this is a global entity. Like, we have Black women photographers from all across the world. We're in almost maybe 70 countries now officially. So there is a space for you almost anywhere now, and we're working on it. So Ivana, and maybe anybody else here, if you're a part of the channels and if you're active in the channels, please let people know like how it is going for you there.
Yeah, so for me, I'm part of the Chicago one. Last year we actually got together and we decided to create a group on Instagram because, sometimes, Slack be a lot, so 'cause, people got Slack for work. No one want to be on Slack like that, all right? So we have our little Instagram, and trust me, it was just blowing up. Like today, it's always blowing up. And yeah, we get together, we have like maybe 3 to 4 meetups. We tell each other about any and every event that's going on in Chicago. We are very networky. And that's what I love about the Black Women Photography Group in Chicago. We're always just like, there's no gatekeeping here. We're always going to try to help each other out. We send each other grants, things that we didn't see on Slack. Like there are members of the Instagram group who bring what's on Slack from Black Women's Photography Group to the chat on Instagram, because sometimes we miss it, or sometimes we don't see the email. And I feel like it's definitely have been like a good save for all of us, because let me tell you, there's half the things that are happening. Most of the time I don't even know until I just hop onto the Instagram. I'm like, oh, I missed a whole like dialogue, or we were just talking about wedding photography a moment ago. And there's a bunch of stuff happening in Chicago right now. So it's like we're all learning about like what is it? Event photography, concert photography, and how to go about that, how to get a press pass. And so it's great. It's fantastic because we're constantly adding each other. And then when we go to other events that are not part of Black Women Photography Group, we end up grabbing other Black women, or we're just like, hey, have you heard of Black Women Photography Group? You want to join? And I remember I was at an event a couple months ago. I'm like, oh, you don't know about this? Let me add you right now. Like, here's the Slack channel. I'm like, also you want to sign up on the website too, because you're gonna be a member. And so it's great. So we always like try to get every Black woman that we can to join Black Women Photography Group. So it's a good time.
Beautiful. Natalie, are you a part of any of those channels or anything?
I am, and I do want to piggyback off what Ivana was saying. It's a great networking tool because I actually met a photographer that I was able to interview for like a paper for school, and I got an A on it. So shout out to Cameron Chambers. But yeah, her work is great too as well. So yeah, it's a great networking tool, and you guys answer very fast. I love that. I mean, I know some photographers or other like, when you reach out to people in museums and stuff, they don't never, respond. You can never get a call back, but BWP, y'all do a great job. So
Amazing. Where you based at again?
I'm in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Oh yeah. I feel like Atlanta just had a meetup recently too. I know New York did the other day.
Oh, shout out to New York. Hopefully I'll be joining you guys in a month or two. So
Hey. Well, beautiful. We are wrapping down to our last 15 minutes of this session, and I thank y'all for being here. And I think I want to wrap up with two questions. First half about how you guys have overcome any creative blocks, and maybe y'all can choose which one y'all want to answer. So first part, how have you gotten over any creative blocks during your journey so far? Second part, what are you looking forward to right now?
I can answer the first one while I have it. Um, okay, so I think I'd start by saying I'm queer. Um, and I think I remember a big part like that was stopping me from creating work is like I didn't want to be this person that is queer that is making queer work. I just sometimes I'm like, why does my identity have to be tied to the work I do, even though it is? It just makes you feel like you can't exist as all these other things. It's just like these things you focus on. But I ended up speaking to a mentor, and part of the issue I was coming up with was like I want to like experiment and shoot with some models. This was like 2 summers ago. But I was like, how can I have on my site saying that I'm like this queer photographer and like these things matter to me, but the work I'm creating has nothing to do with this. And it kind of stopped me because I was so hung up on like I'm very logical about it. And I was so hung up on that idea that like I just wasn't creating anything. And she kind of was just like, my mentor at the time was like, well, you don't have to be this one thing all the time. Like you're allowed to explore and expand, but also like you being queer, that identity is always going to inform your work. It doesn't mean your work has to be focused on queer work, queer stories and stuff. But at the same time, I think what's interesting is like now I'm working on a project that's heavily influenced by my identity. And it's been a great way to build community with other people that identify the same way as me. And so in this case, it's actually liberating in some ways. Like instead of ignoring the one thing I was so worried about, like it's actually helped me creatively to hone in on my identity and like the stories that can be told via my identity.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like that's such a big one. I mean, even just here with Black women photographers, I've definitely had conversations with other Black women photographers who are like, actually, I want to shoot like food and beverage and not necessarily that it has to be from a Black chef. Like, do I have to always do this thing? And I kind of land at myself where I'm like, the work that I make is inherently Black and woman because I am a Black woman. And so if I'm not shooting a Black woman, it's not negating anything about my mission and the stories that I want to tell. So I love that you brought up this pinpoint because I think it's something like we're all thinking about when it comes to the different types of identities we carry. Who else would like to answer? Go ahead, Benicia.
Oh, I was okay. I how do I handle burnout? I like around the pandemic time, I was really burnt out. And I'm coming out of that with photography, and I'm thankful for my full-time opportunity because it's been really inspiring to work with other artists and see their work. And mm, yeah, it's just been really inspiring to see their work, and it makes me want to get back in the studio and like try some new things um and and try something different. and I'm also trying not to like hold myself back. And I feel like it's a lot of like mental stuff sometimes. And just overcoming that. And yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Um, how about you, Natalie? You got anything you're looking forward to when it comes to photography?
I'm looking forward to New York Fashion Week. I definitely want to see if I can make it up to New York this year for New York Fashion Week. That's something that I've been looking forward to for a while, so fingers crossed. And then your other question was about,
Oh, the creative block, how you get out of a creative rut?
I would say stepping away from the project as a whole. I mean, I'm the type of person that once I start, I want to go ahead and finish it and just get it out the way. But I realized that taking a step back and just taking my mind off of it, sometimes you get that light bulb. You have that light bulb moment where you're like, oh, this is how you do that, or this is what I'm gonna do. So just taking a complete step back, shutting my brain off, taking a nap sometimes, and then waking up with like, refreshed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'll
Yeah,
go
you
first. I'll go
okay.
next. Like, okay, cool. So what I'm looking forward to, I just recently got accepted into the International Center of Photography in New York.
Yay,
Um,
congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really, really want to become like, I want to say the best photographer, but I want to become the best photographer that I can be. I
Yeah.
so badly want to become so good, so great, so fantastical. And so I'm preparing for that. Right now I'm trying to figure out the funds and whatnot. So if you guys want to go on my page, go fund me there.
Great.
But
Yeah.
that is what is happening. I am preparing to do this 1-year program to fight to the death, basically, with all these other photographers. And what was this first question?
How you get through a creative rut?
Creative rut, I'm still trying to figure that out now. I tend to have to do other things, painting, writing, anything else outside of photography. I can be creative, like reading a book. I love going to the movies. I have to just step outside of photography for a little bit to kind of remember myself. And I'm always thinking about photography, but it's like sometimes doing other creative things help me, get back into being the creative photographer.
And last but certainly not least.
Yeah, I would say as far as the burnout, uh, sketchbooks have been helping me recently. I've been getting back into that and just playing around with mixed media a little bit and collages. So taking time away, like you all said, definitely helps me to get out of the creative rut. Resting too. It's usually rest. I'll realize like, oh, I'm just tired. Like it's not the end of the world. So that, and then I'm looking forward to finding finding my path, but also meeting some new faces. I feel like I'm at a space where I'm ready to branch out a little bit farther south because I'm currently in Florida. I'm from Atlanta, so I did like love networking up there and stuff, but ready to go farther south, even maybe to the islands. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that work and where that will lead me. But yeah, that's pretty much my answers.
Beautiful. Well, I'll let that wrap us up right there. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming through and sharing a little bit about your journey and how we balance life, essentially being a photographer. And that wraps up the 3-day third annual BWP Summit. I'm so proud of us. Like, I can't believe we finally made it to the end. This is crazy. I just want to leave everybody off with a little bit of information before we go. There will be another Q&A series coming up real soon.
with the Adobe Lightroom ambassadors, where it'll be similar to this, where we're learning about these creative journeys, how we become ambassadors for prestigious institutions like Adobe Lightroom. And it'll be invaluable information that I'll be excited to sit in on as well. We hope that you are using that hashtag BWP Summit. I hope you've been taking screenshots, getting these links, all these resources that we've been dropping in the chat, because it's so much. And I'm just sitting here super grateful that I got to meet all of y'all. Thank you so much for your time. Shout out to the sponsor, Adobe Lightroom. They've been with us for all 3 of these years, and we're excited to grow in this partnership. And before we go, while we say goodbye, do y'all mind if I take a photo of all of us? Okay, beautiful. Let me get my screenshot ready. So thank y'all. Oh, wait. Okay, cool. So thank y'all again. We really appreciate it, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
We also shout out you, Chrissy, because you've been holding it down this weekend. So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, speaking of which, I am hungry, y'all. So I need to go get this plate.
Go to sleep, y'all.
Later. No, for
Get some
real.
rest.
Take a nap, get some rest.
Yes, bye.
Bye.
Bye.